Your first $100,000 is by far going to be the hardest thing you do in wholesaling real estate. A lot of people think inherently making $100,000 in America is a very difficult thing. Like only the top 5, the top 6% of people in the entire country are able to make over 100 grand. But let me tell you the truth. Making 100 grand is by far the hardest thing in wholesaling, but making money after 100 grand is the easiest thing. And you don't need to be some 1% or 2% of the wholesalers to actually start making 6 figures. If you look at a statistic, right, do you know the percent of Americans that are making over $100,000 per year? You might say, most people say 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. Well, the actual truth is over 21% of Americans make over $100,000 per year. All you have to do is pretty much be better than 79% of wholesalers out there, which in my personal opinion, if you just show up every single day and don't quit, you ain't gonna lose, right? One of my favorite things I can tell wholesalers is you don't lose unless you quit, right? You only are a loser in the wholesaling game if you quit, because if you keep going this business, you're going to succeed. But the toughest part of this journey, the toughest part you're going to find is your first $100,000. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, but the most obvious reason is there's more self-doubt that you're going to have, the most resistance from your family. This is when things get really, really tough because it's hard to truly believe in yourself until you've realized $100,000 in your hand, $100,000 in assignment fees or wholesaling deals. But I can tell you this, my friends. This is when you have to triple, quadruple, 5x, 10x down your efforts in this business. Because once you hit that $100,000, it is so much easier. You're gonna have the self-doubt. You're gonna have this creeping thing in the back of your head saying, maybe you should just quit. Maybe you should just give up. No, you are not gonna give up and you are not gonna quit. This is when you actually have to dig in harder to become successful. Your friends, your loved ones, they're probably one giving you the most flack, right? The most resistance of this scam that you're doing, right? You're scamming people, right? That's what you're doing, right? And I've heard it all from everyone. But here's the funniest part, because once you start making over 100 grand and you start doing better than them, you're driving better cars, you're having a better, nice house, you got all these cool things. People start asking you not, oh, wow, it's this new little side thing you're doing. Oh, he's a realtor, I know. They go from, how do I do the same thing? Well, that's so crazy. How do I do the same thing? Because people inherently only care about themselves. And frankly, they like to put other people down too. But if you can be someone who has made a lot of money and they're like, well, how did Johnny do it? He's dumb and I'm smart. Well, if I can do what he's doing, I can get rich too. And now they become interested in what you do. And they're like, well, let me start doing it, right? The thing that I've always found from the hundreds of thousands of wholesalers that I've personally mentored during the past 6 years on this YouTube channel is once you get that $100,000, once you make 6 figures in wholesaling, it gets so much easier. Because the next 100K is super easy. The 100K after that is even easier. And then your first $1 million is just like it's cakewalk. Remember, it's momentum. It's like shooting a rocket up in space. The first mile from the ground up in the air is the hardest because that's when gravity is the hardest. And gravity gets lighter and lighter when you keep going up. And that momentum, you're gonna keep shooting to the moon. But you just have to make your first 100 grand. Here's the sad truth about the wholesaling real estate industry that nobody else will tell you except for me. The wholesaling real estate education game, the YouTube game, is all designed to spit out the losers and take in the new people and spit out them as losers and maybe 1% to 2% become winners. The game is not to make everybody a winner because if everyone's a winner, then they won't buy my new coaching program. And the other really bad part about this, it's like a casino, right? It's supposed to get you excited, happy, colorful, everything's all excited. Now, when I got you at the point of your most exciting, this is when I ask for your credit card. This is when I ask for you to give me money. You know, my $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 wholesaling program, right? My big coaching program. Not like a $100 a month software, a $200 a month software, right? That's different, right? I'm talking about really, really hitting you over the head with a shovel here. A $7,000, $10,000 course that you're not gonna get a refund from. So knowing that the game is designed to take in people, spit them out, and so not many of them are winners because then you got to buy the new course that comes out next year. It's supposed to take all the money when you're excited and then just spit you out. You got to learn, just don't go through the casino. Just learn how to wholesale real estate for free. Again, I'm still the only wholesaler that has a complete free wholesaling real estate course, freewholesaling.com. I'm the only person that personally mentors people absolutely for free in this game. I have the largest wholesaling community in the world, freewholesaling.com. also the largest Discord community, ZachDiscord.com. And I'm here every single day educating you how to get into wholesaling real estate. So what is required to make $100,000 in wholesaling real estate? Well, before we break down exactly what it takes to make $100,000 in wholesaling real estate, let's talk about what you have to do to make $100,000 with other jobs, because I think a lot of people disproportionately look at the amount of work you have to do in wholesaling versus a regular job. So let's say you're a car salesman. Now, according to many statistics, you need to sell between 17 to 18 cars per month to make $100,000 as a car salesman. That's 208 cars per year you have to sell. That's almost a car per day when you take out weekends and holidays and things like that. So that's a lot of work. Like, that's a year. I mean, you got to think of the thousands of hours you have to put in just to learn how the cars work. Then you have to go sell 208 of them, the objections and all. Like, that's a lot of cars to make $100,000. Now, think about real estate. If you want to be a licensed real estate agent, you're on average going to have to sell probably $4 million of real estate to truly net $100,000, because you ain't going to sell $3 million in real estate with no marketing budget. I'm just being straight up with you. But that means on average, let's say the average house is $400,000, right? You're probably going to have to sell between 9, 10, or even 11 houses per year, which is almost a house per month, which doesn't seem terrible. But you also got to remember that finding the listing is literally the hardest part and the most expensive part. So 10 houses, I mean, that's a lot of work as a realtor. That's obviously a full-time job. Most realtors never hit that. Now, a lot of statistics are saying around 25% of realtors will make over $100,000. I call that baloney, stanky. That's a stanky statistic. I don't think that's true. I'd probably round it up to 15, 20%, but still, not terrible. If you put like net after expenses, you're probably looking at 15%, especially the cost of being a real estate agent with E&O insurance and things like that. So still top 15s, top 20% in the field. A teacher? I mean, you better have a master's or a PhD and be in a university, which takes, 4 or 5 extra years. Like, really think about it. On average, in most industries, you got to be in the top 15 to 20% to even crack 6 figures. So it's the same thing in wholesaling real estate. You're going to have to be in the top 20%. You're going to have to beat 8 out of 10 people when it comes to them getting in the wholesaling game and trying to make money, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. That's a really simple, as somebody who's in the top 1% of the 1% of probably the 1% of wholesalers out here by volume and net profits, easy for, Kobe Bryant to go out here and say, just be the top 1% of basketball players. But I'm just asking you to be top 20%, right? Yeah, I mean, you gotta remember the top 20% of basketball players in the United States, right now, they're playing rec ball at the local LA Fitness, okay? They're not playing any college basketball. They're not playing any D3, D4, right? I mean, a D3 athlete is like a top 10% basketball player in the entire country. I'm asking you to be top 20%. So yes, it's still difficult. It's still hard. But the reason it's hard is because everybody wants to get to the same goal, over 6 figures. But the thing about the reason why everyone usually in wholesaling gets stuck there, it's not because you have to spend all this money or all this time being a car salesman or a realtor. To make 6 figures, it's that self-doubt and that thought in the back of your head that I don't know if I can do it. Because once you make $100,000, you know you can do it. And then you just have this complete confidence, which is a belief in the words you say and the actions you take. And then you start making a ton of money in this business. You got to think about, like, half of all marriages fail, right? Like, I think everyone knows that statistic. But if you actually do marriage right, your chances of success skyrocket. Like, so for example, if you're a male, okay, we're gonna use men for example. The reason why 50% of marriages fail is because most of the failed marriages are the second, third, and fourth marriages. I know guys that have been married 3 or 4 times. And your second, third, and fourth marriages have like 70, 80, 90% failure rates. So technically first marriages have about a 40% success rate. Now, if you cut out another big part, which is infidelity, well, I'm not gonna get into that. If you're a guy and you decide you're not gonna cheat on your first wife, now you have like a 30 to 20% divorce rate. You cut the 50% divorce rate to 20% by just not doing the 2 biggest factors, being married multiple times and cheating. Now, there's other factors like money and finances, which, I mean, hey, we're watching this get rich. But because there's a 50% divorce rate doesn't stop people from getting married. And if you cut out the biggest risk factors and you just decide not to be a cheater, I mean, you got a pretty good shot at making it work. And it's kind of the same thing in wholesaling. Yeah, a lot of wholesalers fail, but if you cut out people that quit in their first year, people who do not talk to at least 1,000 sellers in a year, or even do 100 cold calls in a month. If you just do at least 100 drying for dollars leads a month or something like that, you're going to be in the top 30% automatically, because the bar has never been lower to just become successful in wholesaling. Most people don't want to do the work, and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about these TikTok 16, 17-year-olds that get started wholesaling real estate from watching me. Now, you're probably watching this like, why are you calling me out? I'm 16. Well, I'll be honest with you, most 16-year-olds ain't gonna work hard. But I absolutely just hate generalizing wholesalers and generalizing marriages, right? Because if you go into marriage the right way and you get rid of all the risk factors, you get into wholesaling the right way and you get rid of all the risk factors, the chance of success is very, very, very high. Like, think about it. If I can see a new wholesaler getting in this industry, right? And they are disciplined, they are driven, they are focused, and they always have the will to succeed and visualize what their success is going to be and always do the hard work that is always required. They don't give excuses and they never give up. They make a ton of money. And they're in the right market, right? Because you just can't put all the right energy, all the right marketing in a terrible market like Miami, LA, or New York. As long as you're in a half decent market, you're going to have great success. So sometimes it's just not about how much wholesaling you do or how much marketing you do, and more of how long you can withstand the pain of wholesaling, right? There's a pain where you don't get your first deal. There's a pain where you have months between deals. There's a pain of not knowing when the deal is coming from. But if you just keep going and you get better and better and improve, that tough 100K becomes pretty dang simple and easy. Now, my best advice for you, some of the killers in the wholesaling game when you're starting out, is first and foremost is comparison, right? You're going to compare me, who's doing thousands of deals, and be like, why can't I be like him? He's the same age as me. When you got to understand that I put my work in. I've put my hours in the gym getting better, right? I put over 8 years in this industry, working 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days. If you want to look up to me and be just like me, then put in the 14, 15-hour days for over 5 years straight. Everyone used to say back in the 90s, right? Be like Mike, right? Be like Michael Jordan. But nobody ever wanted to work just as hard as Michael Jordan. And I know this is cliche. I always use a Kobe Bryant example. But everyone wants to be just like the Black Mamba. Everyone wants to be like Kobe, one of the best basketball players ever. I absolutely loved watching Kobe Bryant. And everyone's school wanted to play just like him. But the thing about it is Kobe Bryant was so confident that no one could actually work as hard as him, that he gave his entire plan, his entire schedule so you can copy him and be the next great in the NBA. What he did since the age of pretty much 12 years old, by the way. So you gotta remember when he was in high school, he already had 6 years of this, okay? He would work out 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Just basketball. That's a lot of work. And that's what he determined what was required for him to be successful and be better than the rest. And this is why we know about Kobe Bryant and not the other Kobe Bryant wannabes. So my best advice for you is put in the work. Don't be all comparison with other people. Focus on your own journey. It's your journey, not my journey. There's plenty of people watching this that probably by the time I'm 50, 60 years old, they're going to overpass me, right? They're going to do, 3,000 deals per year, and they're going to be the next great in this business, which obviously great. I want to mentor you guys and teach you obviously for free, especially when you're a young gun in this industry that can grow into something great. But don't compare your journey to mine, because maybe your journey is to grow even crazier than me, but maybe you start out a little slower. Everyone's got their own journey. And so I think you should divert a lot of this social media stuff, right? I see all these wholesalers that are begging me to teach them how to coach in wholesaling, right? Because their wholesaling business is dumping and they're driving around in Rolls Royces. True stories, by the way. And so a lot of social media is a very fake, cloudy game. And the point of it is just to look at it and don't compare yourself and feel bad. Just focus on you and what you can do for success. The one thing I want you to really understand here, and again, people think that like I'm a hater with your family or friends with this, but truly in your life, outside of maybe your dog and probably your mom, is nobody really wants to see you succeed except for you and maybe your mom. Like that's pretty much it, and your dog, okay? Everybody else is so self-centered about their life that you gotta stop trying to care about what other people are thinking. Focus on you, and then at the end of the day, everyone that's been doubting you, everyone that thought you couldn't do it, everyone that thought, oh, he's just doing the silly old thing, you have to laugh right to the bank. And here's the thing, there's so many people I've pulled up to my old place of work in the sickest cars you can even imagine, thinking that you're going to get the self-satisfaction going back to the place where you were disrespected and And the cool thing with the whole, just like Pretty Women, and they're, oh, we disrespected you. You were so right. We were so wrong. That never happens because people only care about themselves and they forget about you pretty quick. And you're going to get no satisfaction. You're doing this for you, not for anybody else. You will not get satisfaction. All you can do is laugh to the bank to yourself, knowing that you completed your dreams and everybody that doubted you has become so small in comparison to what you have become that it doesn't matter who laughed at you or who told you that you couldn't do it or be amounting to anything. The old teachers and people told me that this real estate thing was never going to work. I don't even think about them anymore. They're still stuck making 40 grand a year when I'm making 40 grand a single deal. I'm doing multiple deals a day. The point is you're going to get rich for yourself and for your family. Who cares what anybody else thinks? But you have to destroy that self-doubt. You just have to get that first $100,000. And that's the most painful part. But I promise you, once you hit that 100 grand, the rest is sky high momentum on the rocket ship to your success. Guys, if you're ready to start wholesaling real estate the right way and making your first 100 grand or maybe your first $1 million, go to my free wholesaling course, freewholesaling.com. And like always, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. This is Zach signing out. Have a blessed one.